So early game Borderlands 4 does have a lot of strong legendary options to pick from. That is why today I want to show you the top 10 legendaries and how to get them right here in the Fade fields. You'll have weapons of all types, gear, and even legendary class mods to choose from. Of course, spoiler warning ahead as we are going to talk about certain boss locations, and also a second disclaimer, I refarmed all of these at level 50 again to reconfirm the drops once more. This is why most of the footage is around that level too. However, I can guarantee that the ones we're focusing on today have been carrying me through the whole leveling stage. That being said, I'm not going to linger over the first one too long because you know about it already, so that's going to be Splashzone right here, and we talked about how good this is as an early legendary farm spot, specifically because of the three main legendaries we can get here. One of them is the very strong Torgue shotgun that can help quite a bit. The lead balloon is actually pretty decent against boss fights. You also get this fireworks shield, which even in the end game is like literally one of the best at extra DPS. All of those homing missiles are actually so strong, and they just become even stronger in the endgame as well. But you also get the bouncing jelly, a self-replicating grenade as well, which is pretty good for extra damage, and keep in mind that all of these can spawn with literally any of the elementals in the game. Now at number 2 we have the Bully, which is one of the few order weapons that I actually enjoyed. It has the defense protocol, which basically lets it summon a drone every about 14 seconds when you pull off the shields with it, so when you aim down the sights, and its damage is actually really good as well by default, so it can definitely carry you, give you all the protection that you need, and that little drone that you get extra is also pretty good. Plus it has decent accuracy, fire rate, and everything that you need, so the damage on it is actually going to be really good. To get this, you're going to need to defeat the Core Observer, which is a boss that you're going to unlock right here from the Black Lime Bunker. You will, however, need to progress a bit in the story until you can grab the canister and destroy the organic armor on it so that you can open the entrance. Now, there is a second weapon that can drop from this, which is not really quite as good. It's the Divided Focus, which basically just shoots bouncing projectiles. But I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely better in the early game when enemies didn't have much HP. It really falls off after that. Even with a Jacob's licensed accessory on it, it really wasn't that great, but if you want a bit of fun, you can definitely also farm for that here too. This brings us to number 3, which is the Darkbeast. This is actually an SMG that carried me a lot all the way to the end game. So this has piercing bullets which pass through enemies, but they also have a 5% chance to explode, which can deal a lot of damage. So this is something that actually works really great if you're going with a build that is mainly centered around corrosion. It's, I believe, only going to spawn with the corrosive element, so in this case it's probably going to be best against enemies with a lot of armor. But honestly, those damage explosions were so good that it worked on pretty much everything. You, by the way, get this from an auger mine, so this is something that you're going to unlock a little bit later in the main story. So once you get over here to the timid Kyle's neglected opening, you can go inside and make your way to what's essentially going to be the boss here, the Quake Thrasher, and that's going to be the one that actually drops it. And the same boss, by the way, has a chance to drop another weapon on top of this, which is going to be the Potato Thrower. However, I'm not going to lie, one of them pretty much dropped with the perfect rolls, and it was still very weak, so I wouldn't hunt for that specifically, but yeah, that's just pretty much me. Now, for the next weapon category, we have an assault rifle. If you want to go with something like that, early on we do have an option via Aegon's Dream. This is actually a pretty interesting Vladov weapon because you can actually slap an enhancement on it that gives it a 30% chance to also shoot an extra projectile, and it already comes with a high rate of fire and a very good magazine size, plus it comes with multiple elementals. I'm pretty sure that it's fire and ice in this case. So what you're going to notice is that if you combine those two, the damage on it can actually be really great. And here's the kicker, it actually drops from Horus, which is like one of the first or maybe the second boss encounters from the main campaign. So if you repeat it a little bit more, chances are that you're going to see this dropping. There are actually 2 weapons that can drop from this boss. One of that was that Aegon's Dream, but we have a second one, which is the Lucky Clover. So this is also making a return, I believe. It's going to also shoot 2 homing rockets every reload, which helps a little bit with the damage. If you can get the enhancement to make order weapons to not actually wait too long for the charge up and instantly charge up, it can actually become much stronger, but I think it really falls off in the later stages. Early on it was decent, but later stages it kind of falls off. Moving on to number 5, for the next farm, we don't just have a weapon, but we also have a legendary shield. And quite a lot of you guys have asked me from the Rafa build where you can farm a Kickballer reliably. Well, actually both that and the legendary Onion shield will drop from Sludge Maw right here on the side of the map. But for that, you're going to need to complete this side mission over here, which is called Null and Void, a little bit further south from the launch pad. So you do need to progress up until you defeated, Fortress Indomira, and then this is going to spawn for you. And if you complete that quest, it's going to give you this boss that you can go ahead and repeat. One of the main reasons you want it is because of the Onion shield, which gives you those 2 seconds of immunity every time an armor segment breaks. So this already helps a ton with survivability, but it also gives you, at least has a chance to give you, a Kickballer. And if you're lucky enough to have it with a Jacob's part on it, you can literally combine the shield and this and have that really crazy Rafa build. Which, by the way, at the time of making this video, which I believe is like the 3rd day after launch, still absolutely works just like in the first day and before that. So if you still want to go ahead and try it out, you still have the possibility to do so. Anyway, let's keep on going, and if you want a pistol and a heavy ordnance, we can actually get both of them from a very interesting encounter, which is going to be the Sydney Pointy Legs right here. It's actually nothing more than just a drill site, so you can just go ahead and farm this very early on. It's even part of the endgame rotation right now if you go ahead and play with it. But there are 2 items that drop over here that I absolutely love, and one of them is going to be the Silence Pistol. Now, it's not going to be silenced or anything, it's just that its main mechanic is that it shoots out a sonic wave. And let me tell you, this has been one of the best pistols all the way in the endgame. So this is going to deal kinetic damage, and the best way to play with it is aim at the enemy's feet, because its point of impact is actually large, but the bullet itself is actually very small, so you have to really aim directly to the enemy's body if you want to do it otherwise. But I absolutely love this. If it hits the ground, it's going to take down multiple enemies at the same time, and overall its DPS is off the charts. Totally give it a try, you're going to absolutely love it. But there is actually a second item that can drop from the same boss, which is going to be the Disc Jockey. So this is going to be a heavy weapon ordnance, which you can go ahead and use like that, and it has a bouncing biscuits, which are essentially about 5 projectiles that will just bounce between targets and also gain damage per bounce, so the last one will deal a ton of it. Actually, the damage can stack quite a bit if enemies are grouped up. It's not the best heavy ordnance we can get at this stage. There's one that's even better, but you can totally make use of this if you want a little bit of fun in your builds. Which brings me to the true best heavy ordnance you can get early in Borderlands 4, which is essentially going to be this one right here called the Streamer. This is going to come up with the legendary delegation perk, launches stationary projectiles that each fire a beam forward, so the beams will actually linger for at least 2 to 3 seconds, dealing continuous damage. So as you stack a lot of them, as you would imagine, this is going to be an absolute boss melter. And speaking of bosses, you also get it from a relatively early story boss encounter from Oppressor right here on this side of the map. Now, this has definitely been on the super rare side for me, so if you don't see it dropping in like 10 to 20 rounds or so, then just give up and continue going. There are other options that you can get along the way. We aren't done just yet, and for the next one we have a very strong sniper rifle that's actually making a return from the previous entries, and that's going to be the Complex Root. Just like before, it functions exactly the same, so along the path it's going to spawn diverging projectiles that linger for a few seconds, dealing extra elemental damage. In this case it can spawn with any elementals, but this has consistently been a boss melter for me for all of the versions from low level all the way to max level 50. The bigger the boss is and the longer its body is, the more damage you can stack up, because you can pretty much line up all of those diverging projectiles through its body to again deal continuous damage. And this is actually a drop from Mimikron, which is another boss right here from another order bunker, this time around the Tipping Point. So to unlock this, just pay attention to this left side over here. There should be a large vent to go through where you can actually find the canister to destroy the opening and go inside towards the boss. This is mainly going to function medium to medium far range. It's not going to be like super far like other sniper rifles, but as long as you stay within that range, that's where you can stack up the highest amount of damage. If the enemy is too close to you or too far away from you, that's not going to maximize its potential. That is why I try to like go the way I am right here, but you should probably notice this with your own eyes when playing with it. Now there's technically one more location we can go ahead and check out, which is going to give us a lot of legendary class mods, pretty much one for each of the vault hunters and also a couple of weapons. So in total you're going to see about like 8 or so dedicated drops from Primordius, which is going to be the final boss here at the Ark of Inceptus, one of the first vaults we can unlock in the first region. So I already covered that in the previous video, but this boss is going to have a chance to drop these legendary class mods. However, I will have to say some of them seem worse than others. Some of them are a bit better, like for example the one for Rafa in this case. What we have basically, which is the Philanthropo, seems to be the weakest. It just spawns a grenade, which I guess would work with some of the good grenade options we have, but it's not like it's going to make a huge difference. Besides this, you can also see the Elementalist dropping for Aegon. This is going to just give you a lot of affinity skill stacks. If you have affinity skills, this is going to benefit them a lot. It seems it's also going to increase skill damage, so yeah, probably if you want to go with a speedrunner build and get a lot of movement speed plus skill damage, this may help a ton. I'm pretty sure that with the Axis, this should work really well. You also get one for Vex. In this case, it's going to be the Avatar, which essentially makes you and your minions deal more damage for each active attunement skill, so you're going to need to have a lot of those in your skill tree, and each of those will also provide damage reduction, plus you get quite a bit of action skill damage on the item itself too. I haven't seen any of them dropping for Harlow, so I couldn't really tell you if actually one of them drops from this boss. But I do know that at least one more shield drops from here, which is the extra medium. This is just going to give you a best version of the Nova when the shield breaks, and also a random different mechanic. In this case, it's movement speed, but it can also give you like gun damage or reload. This is all going to obviously be random. And also one of these weapons over here, which is the Husky Friend, a TDR gun, but unfortunately it just seems to function like pretty much any TDR weapon. Like even some of the purple ones you can find kind of function the same, so I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. You only get that auto turret, which may help you a little bit more, but besides that it seems to be a regular TDR weapon and that's it. Now, of course, there are quite a few other legendaries here you can go ahead and farm. However, for the most part, after testing everything, the ones I just showed you were the best, at least in terms of how they performed without being enhanced by anything else. So you can definitely still go and farm the others, and if you do, let me know down below in the comments if you like them or not, or if you prefer the ones that I also mentioned in today's video. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.